made an opportunity later, as we stood alone on a stand which commanded the finish of one of the shorter courses, by suggesting that he should share my umbrella. Before accepting, he glanced suspiciously at me through the rills that streamed from his unprotected hat brim. "I'm afraid," I said, "it is rather like shutting the stable door after the steed is stolen." He started. "He was stolen, then," he cried. "So you have heard." I explained to him that I had only used an old proverb which I thought might appeal to him, and he sighed heavily. "I was misled for the moment," he said. "You have guessed, then, that I have been accustomed to horses. You have hardly made any great secret of it. The fact is," he said, instantly understanding this allusion to his costume, I put on these things so as not to lose the habit of riding altogether. I have not been on horseback lately. At one time I used to ride constantly. I was a regular attendant in Rotten Row, until something occurred which shook my nerve, and I am only waiting now for the shock to subside." I did not like to ask any questions, and we walked back to the station and travelled up to Waterloo in company, without any further reference to the subject. As we were parting, however, he said, "I wonder if you would care to hear my full story some day. I cannot help thinking it would interest you, and it would be a relief to me." I was ready enough to hear whatever he chose to tell me, and persuaded him to dine with me at my rooms that evening and unbosom himself afterwards, which he did to an extent for which I confess I was unprepared. That he himself implicitly believed in his own story I could not doubt, and he told it throughout with the oddest mixture of vanity and modesty, and an obvious struggle between a dim perception of his own absurdity and the determination to spare himself in no single particular, which, though it did not overcome my scepticism, could not fail to enlist sympathy. But for all that, by the time he entered upon the more sensational part of his case, I was driven to form conclusions respecting it, which, as they will probably force themselves upon the reader's own mind, I need not anticipate here. I give the story as far as possible in the words of its author, and have only to add that it would never have been published here without his full consent and approval. "My name," said he, "is Gustavus Pulvertoft. I have no occupation and 600 a year. I lived a quiet and contented bachelor until I was 28, and then I met Diana Chetwynd for the first time. We were spending Christmas at the same country house, and it did not take me long to become one of the most devoted of her many adorers. She was one of the most variously accomplished girls I had ever met. She was a skilled musician, a brilliant amateur actress. She could give most men 30 out of 100 at billiards, and her judgment and daring across the most difficult country had won her the warm admiration of all hunting men. And she was neither fast nor horsey, seeming to find but little pleasure in the society of mere sportsmen, to whose conversation she infinitely preferred that of persons who, like myself, were rather agreeable than athletic. I was not at that time, whatever I may be now, without my share of good looks, and for some reason it pleased Miss Chetwynd to show me a degree of favour which she accorded to no other members of the house party. It was annoying to feel that my unfamiliarity with the open-air sports in which she delighted debarred me from her company to so great an extent, for it often happened that I scarcely saw her until the evening, when I sometimes had the bliss of sitting next to her at dinner. But on these occasions I could not help seeing that she found some pleasure in my society. I don't think I have mentioned that besides being exquisitely lovely, Diana was an heiress, and it was not without a sense of my